as you know, Disney is in, it's not doing that well in the public eye right now. Just recently, Gina Carano filed a lawsuit against Disney for wrongful termination, and she has a whole litany of other things that she's pursuing against them. This whole lawsuit is being funded by Elon Musk, but Elon Musk has continued to go hard at Disney as he seems to be kind of hell-bent on exposing their dirty business practices.
He's trying to start beef with Disney on X.
Yep.
And part of this, an anonymous source from Disney sent him a graphic that is sent to all their employees. Their mandatory institutionalized racism and sexism, aka inclusion standards,
yes,
for their entertainment hiring practices. So this is all questions you're not supposed to ask people who are potential talent candidates, but you're supposed to infer about them and figure out if you should hire them to meet all of your quotas.
I'm going to put this up on screen here so people can see what we're talking about. 50%
or more of regular or recurring written characters must come from underrepresented groups.
50% more or regular recurring actors must come from underrepresented groups. Secondary characters, meaningful inclusion of underrepresented groups as secondary or more minor on-screen individuals, including background actors.
Okay, that's all on-screen representation. And then in their leadership.
No, listen, like series premise. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So series premise, meaningful integration of underrepresented groups in overall themes and narratives, which confirms everything that was going on in the film threat expose that we talked about recently, about how they used to go into these pitch meetings with these Hollywood executives, and they would talk about how can we make this entertaining movie. Now they say, how can we teach the audience something? How can we, the disturbingly stupid elites, teach the normies something? That's what they believe that their job is now, to teach you or I something about the world.
And 50% or more of producers, writing staff, episode directors, casting directors, creative leadership, all of these people need to be 50% or more from underrepresented groups.
Also, episodic storytelling, ongoing meaningful integration of underrepresented groups in episodic themes and narratives. So, like, who decides what is meaningful in that? Like what actually constitutes meaningful storyline-wise? Like, does it have to take up a certain amount of minutes per episode?
Yeah,
like,
I don't know. And we also don't know for sure if this is really from a Disney employee, but it's likely. I mean, it would be a lot of work for him to put together this fake image.
There's a $20 one here from Mitty in 1911. Says, the quote about how ignorant his father is comes from Mark Twain. It's meant to show how children think their dads are dumb, but adults realize for much they actually knew.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yep.
They also said even the composers, costume designers, editors, production designers, music supervisors, all of those people, 50% or more have to come from underrepresented groups.
This is insane.
Key roles in technical crews, project staff, yeah, pretty much all of the staff involved in their content.
You can no longer pretend like there isn't an anti-white sentiment coming from these companies. They will deny it. They will tell you that that's not real. But when they talk about these things, it's not about saying not white. It's about saying this group, which is just the polite way of saying not white.
But at the end, it's telling that they added this disclaimer. Context is critical when evaluating if a group is underrepresented. Anyone involved in hiring decisions is prohibited from asking candidates and talent about their actual or perceived race, religion, color, sexual orientation, gender, gender identity, military or veteran status, age, disability, or any other legally protected categories.
All of this stuff literally tells people, well, it doesn't, it tells people without telling people, you need to discriminate and you need to not say that you're discriminating. It makes it completely clear that that is what you're supposed to do. It doesn't say it specifically and it gives the activists plausible deniability. But the point is to be able to discriminate, and it is to discriminate against like white people now specifically, but it'll be used on whatever group they want to, because it allows for the person to make the subjective call. So It's not something that you want to have in your, whatever, your HR departments or your society at all, because it's going to be, it's all it is going to be consistently people weaponizing jobs, hiring, firing, etc. It's going to be weaponizing it based on race all the time. And it's going to, and that boils down to ideology. And
below that graphic, Elon added 8 additional pages of outlined DEI standards from inside the Disney Corporation, saying, here is the full racist, sexist, and discriminatory set of laws enforced by Disney's DEI Gestapo. No wonder most of their content produced over the past several years has sucked. Just trying to navigate the DEI minefield is going to crush the creative process.
That's the number one takeaway I always have from this stuff is like, look, I say this all the time. Making good art is really, really difficult. Making something meaningful, making something that speaks to a large audience, that has great themes, that has a great actual message, not a forced, canned message, doing that is not easy. Now imagine having that unbelievably difficult task given to you and then being put all of these like office level handcuffs on and being expected to create great art. Like, first of all, racist handcuffs that are being put on you, and then being said, go make good art that's also going to make us money. It's impossible.
Yeah, it's a middle management tyranny.
Yeah.
And also, in addition to inviting anyone to join Gina Carano's lawsuit on X, he said, if you were discriminated against by Disney or its subsidiaries, just reply to this post to receive legal support. And someone replied to him as well with details of Amazon Studios' DEI standards. This is directly from them. They seek one character from each of the following categories for speaking roles of any size: non-white, LGBTQ, or person with a disability. The minimum aspirational goals for casting across speaking roles are 30% men, 30% white women and non-binary people, 20% men from underrepresented races, 20% women and non-binary people from underrepresented races. Where we can have more people from underrepresented race or ethnic groups, we will seek to do that. We also aspire to cast at least 10% of our roles with people who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, or gender nonconforming or non-binary, and 10% with people who self-identify as a person with a disability.
You look at this stuff, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, how do you expect to make anything authentic with such ridiculous restrictions?
Point is Pirates of the Caribbean,
yes,
without Johnny Depp,
yeah,
where they cast a black woman as the lead character.
How about go ahead.
Well, your point is that you can't be creative if you have these restrictions, and this is what you saw in the art that was created in the Soviet Union the entire time that it was around. Very, very few artists made anything worth noting. And this is the country where, or at least Russia was the country where like Dostoevsky came from. Like real impactful art was made there. So it's not like it's foreign to that, their culture or whatever. It's just that it was so narrow what you could create, and no one wanted to risk stepping out of line.
But also, okay, think about this. So say you're taking this premise and you're taking it to a TV show that's going to be set in a specific area. Now, do you remember where The Peripheral was set? Was it West Virginia?
No.
Okay, but I'm just saying, imagine you take a television show and you put it in, I looked up what is the whitest county in America. Imagine you want to take a TV show and you want to make it someplace in West Virginia. And then you slap these restrictions on there. It is a recipe for inauthenticity. It won't feel real to anyone. The same would go in the other direction if you wanted to go make something in Atlanta. And you went the other way. I'm saying if you went the other way, right? And then imagine the roles were reversed and all of these stats were backwards and Caucasians, white people weren't the majority demographic in this country. And then you wanted to make a show set someplace like that. And then you threw them in there where it doesn't fit. It wouldn't feel real. It wouldn't make any sense. And that would be bad too.
I think that's part of the reason why they set most of their projects in Hollywood in these big cities with liberal strongholds. So they don't have to show Middle America or places like West Virginia.
And they despise Middle America anyways. They've despised Middle America for far longer than what has been going on recently.
Talk about underrepresented groups, right?
Yep.
But yeah, Elon responded to the Pirates of the Caribbean news saying Disney sucks. I would say it's fake news that Ayo Edebiri is replacing Johnny Depp. She's playing a different character, but that character, Anne, is based on a real historical figure who was white, not a black woman.
I was talking to someone the other day. One of my favorite shows of all time is Law and Order: Criminal Intent, and apparently that show was particularly bad about, like, so they would take all these crimes and then they would just make them like NIMBY white people in this.
We've got a $20 from Ditto Gonzalez. Water is wet because water is a description of H2O.
Oh, okay.
So true.
Yep. Thank you. Somebody says The Peripheral was set in Clanton, North Carolina. Thank you.
Well, they can also, because The Peripheral is set far in the future, they can change it to whatever they want.
Yes.
Which is our diverse utopia future.
Perfect wording. Perfect wording right there. And look, it's hitting them in more ways than one. So they had their investor call yesterday. Well, it looks like they have lost 1.3 million subscribers after their most recent price hike. You know why they raised the prices? Because they're not getting enough people to subscribe. So they have to keep raising the prices to try to make up for the loss. Now, I won't pretend like this is the worst news in the world for them. What's funny about that is that sounds awful on the offset that they lost 1.3 million subscribers. But what it is actually like in all of in the most recent 2 or 3 quarters, Disney was losing like $1 billion a quarter on Disney Plus, and they were able to cut that to just $200 million in losses. So they are working their way slowly, ever so slowly.
Still an L.
It's an L, but I'm saying it's not as when you run a business of that size, you don't speak in absolutes. They have to look at the progress they've made. So they were losing $1 billion a quarter. In the most recent quarter, they lost about $200 and something million on Disney Plus.
But it's the largest decline in subscribers ever from subscribers in the U.S. and Canada.
Yes.
400,000.
People are rejecting the notion that Disney is now the tastemaker in entertainment. I really do. People are looking even more towards Universal for animation than Disney. All of the Universal movies seem to do really, really well. Are they the ones who made Minions?
I think that's DreamWorks. So
okay,
yeah, that's owned by Universal,
yes.
Isn't it?
So like it's all
they're putting out another Kung Fu Panda movie,
and all of those are going to do better than anything Disney is doing because Disney can't seem to extract themselves from identity politics. What's funny is people thought Chapek was going to be better, but he's the one who was around during the whole Gina Carano debacle. And Iger is, of course, no better. And he's going back to doing what Bob Iger always does when he can't figure out what to do. He's buying a $1.5 billion stake in Epic Games to work with the Fortnite maker on new content.
Bob Iger be shopping.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to actually create anything new. So they're going to just invest a bunch of money in video games.
It's a good move, just considering video games are way more profitable than movies. Thank you.
Which is crazy that something that's actually like interactive and otherwise you'd think would require the same kind of. I mean, you'd think that there would have to be like story that people want to be quality as well as like. I feel like a good video game should be everything a movie is plus more.
Yeah,
because it's longer. You've got to engage. You've got all the building of the world and the actual mechanics and the physics and all the actual stuff. But then the story, if the story is as good as a good movie's story would be, then you've got like a no-brainer hit kind of thing.
Yeah.
Fortnite wouldn't fit that description, but yeah, some of these are like
about that, yes.
12 to 17 hour games, whereas a movie only takes you 2.
Yep.
But they're, selling more than movies and TV shows are.
They're more, they are a better form of entertainment, honestly, because it's interactive.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like the sentiment against Disney is so negative. I wonder sometimes, because I'm always trying to check myself, is this feeling that I have a terminally online thought? Like, is the idea that because we spend so much time reading about this stuff, I wonder sometimes if I'm just wrapped up in my own little world that's been created through my work. And I try to always check myself to make sure that I'm not thinking something that is not necessarily true just because I'm looking at it all day. But I think that the box office proves that it is more than just a terminally online thought to think that Disney is tanking these days.
Right. But most people who are, choosing not to see what they put out in theaters don't see it as a culture war thing. They're just not interested.
The thing is, like, the feedback from kids, if I understand correctly, the feedback from actual like kids that watch it, the movies that do bad, it's not because like parents are like, no, I don't want my kids to see this. It's because kids don't respond well to the stories and to the movies. Buddy of mine that lives in California, he's got 2 kids that are, I think, like 6 and 9 and or 6 and 8 or something like that. And he was talking about like some of the stuff that's come out, that like the Buzz Lightyear one, that did really badly. He's like the kids watched it and like they didn't really pay a whole lot of attention. It didn't grab their attention and it didn't hold their attention, and they haven't watched it since. There are other movies that have a rewatchability that kids just are like, I want to see it. So the ones that are doing bad are largely doing bad because it is actually the kids that are not responding well. And this is not definitive or anything. This is just, my little anecdote that I can.
Kids are honest.
Yeah, they are. Totally.
Critics aren't honest. Kids
Absolutely.
are too honest for their own good. And also, it's based on Toy Story, which for a 6-year-old, they didn't grow up with that necessarily. It's banking on nostalgia. And you can only really rely on this Disney adult class, these dinks, to keep you afloat in the theme parks for so long before they also die out. And the kids growing up today are not connected with any of your IP.
Yeah, the dinks aren't having kids, therefore it becomes maybe a self-correcting problem down the line. Eventually they'll have osteoarthritis and they won't be able to go to the theme parks.
They're going to need to work on accessibility features.
And eventually, maybe Disney will invest in that like swingers on Main thing that they were making up. So like the
Disney dating app.
Yep, the Disney dating app.
Yeah.
Which is different from the swinger. The swinger one was a joke. The Disney dating app actually exists. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.